Master.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise, and welcome to From the Depths, Most Wanted. And this is a particular episode of Most Wanted that has been anticipated by quite a few people, myself included, because this ship you are looking at right now is the thing that inspired the idea. Because I remember testing my ships against this craft and thinking to myself, you know what, it'd be really nice if somebody out there made a video specifically on how to kill this thing. Because back in the day I was getting very frustrated with the idea. This thing seemed unkillable. But I've learned a lot since then, and so I guess the person making that video is me. So, say hello to the Terr, or the Thyr as some people pronounce it. It is possibly the most dangerous craft in the Steel Striders faction of From the Depths. Like you can see right here, it is a 50-point godly design. It is quite scary. But the good news is that, well, this video wouldn't exist if it was unkillable, because then the video would be 10 seconds long and me essentially shrugging my shoulders and saying, well, you're on your own, mate. But it can be killed. I know how to do it. I've in fact seen it done. So, before anything else, we need to go into why this thing is so scary. So, to start off with, this thing is, well, it's hard to kill. It is very well defended. So if we go here, why did I do that? Okay, so, 1, 2, and just P. Firstly, it's pretty well armored. Oh my freaking... Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Yay, there we go. So it's got pretty much at its thinnest point, which is over here, it's got at least 2 layers of metal. So we're here, 1, 2, yep, 2 at minimum. And it only gets thicker when you get around over here. There's 2. Now we're talking, here's 3, and around the guns themselves, it gets really tough. So quite space efficient too. This is a layer of heavy armor and 2 layers of metal. It is quite strong. Here it's only a little bit weaker. It's a layer of heavy armor and a layer of metal. More later on how to get through that. It also has ridiculous numbers of... It has quite the ridiculous shield pattern. So I will show you that to you presently. Alpha is... Let's make that 50. And apply to all. And we're going to spawn in something unlucky. Let's spawn in... What should we spawn in? Let's spawn in something easy just for giggles. Vanguard. We were making fun of those the other day. So that shell just bounced off the hull without even doing anything. Jeez, I mostly forgot about the Vanguard, to be honest. Look at that. That shell is on a hiding to nowhere. Let's make those... So you can see this thing has a lot of shields. It is well covered. In fact, let's make them even more clear so you can... Jeez, that's loud. Okay, so now you can see the darn things. This thing has shields all over it, and they overlap. So it has at least double layer shields along its entire length, and it actually goes to triple layer in some places. So you can see around here, coming in straight at the guns, you've got 1 layer here. You've got, especially in this overlapping bit, you've got a layer there, a layer there, a layer through here, and a layer through here. And I believe it is a mixture of... So, let's see here. This is... That's a reflection shield. That's a reflection shield. I think it has disruption shields somewhere around here, but I don't think so. And as shields go, they are reasonably strong. They're strength 3. Okay, we can probably do this. Oh, hello, it vanished. So yeah, we'll get to that particular friendly fire incident later, but suffice to say, this thing is pretty well armored, like along its entire hull. It is very well shielded. Not quite as ludicrous as the Perforator, I have to say. Like, you turn the shields on that thing on and you suddenly, like... Well, it looks like an insane disco party when the Perforator shields are visible. But, yeah, it's got lots of shields. It's got good armor. It also has... If you follow my channel for any length of time, I just realized I forgot to set my timer, but if you follow my channel for any length of time, you'll know that I have a grudge against LAM systems, against laser anti-munition defense, and this ship is where that started. That is, this is the first thing I encountered, just in the vehicle designer, that made a complete mockery of crams, which are and probably will always be my favorite weapon system in the game. So this is where that started, where an entire volley got blown out of the sky by little insignificant laser things right there, with a hidden backline that basically makes me feel very depressed every single time. So that's where it starts, and I'm just reading this all out of order now, so... Basically this thing is very hard to kill, well armored, well shielded, it's got a scary LAM system. Let's show you that, actually. If I spawn in... What's another thing that's... If I spawn in a bulwark, it'll be impressive if any of that get... Oh, no. That was close. Let's, While I talk about it, let's go over here. So, not only does, this thing kind of have like good active defenses and passive ones, I guess armor counts as passive. It also has aim point spoofing. So if we go over here and 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see that vulnerable bits are in inconvenient parts of the ship. All these ammo barrels, in fact, I think all of the ammunition and ammo processors are here in the stern of the craft, which is, as I mentioned before, the AI can only predict in straight lines in this game. It can't account for turning. So, when it tries to lead the target and this damn thing turns, it'll likely miss, especially if it's slow APS shells or crams or something like that. So, and also one of the AI is back here, and it is quite neatly wrapped in a lot of stuff. So that's lots of metal and stone, and I believe that, yep, so the ammo is quite well wrapped in heavy armor. Yes, indeed it is. There's even a little air gap back there. This has got to be the tiniest little gap I've ever seen. Does this help this thing float at all? Don't think so. But in any case, yeah, it's not the only one actually. So if we go over here again, 3, 4. Okay, you can stop moving now. Thank you. And we'll see here. I believe this is where the main AI sits, or not. It does not actually. Interesting. Where's the other ones? There's one right in the front here. Yep, there it is. That's the backup. I believe there is another one hidden somewhere in the middle, in the Citadel, which is the most heavily armored and annoying part of the whole ship. It's not here. We should find these things ahead of time, but you know what? I didn't feel like it. Ah, here it is. Let's see. That thing is right in the middle of all this metal and stuff, and you can see the AI is wrapped in stone, which is a trick I swear by, because stone is impervious to EMP, so very good move there. And now that the thing is out of the bloody way, let us show you how strong the LAM system is by having a bulwark shoot at it. From behind, even. Really should do something about that. So even from behind, it's pretty well shielded. So it's still capable of dodging anything it doesn't shoot out of the air. Yep, so that was how many meters away? The thing was sniping cram shells that are about, like, over 200 meters from it, so crams are, well, when have they ever, but crams are not the best trick to deal with this thing. Because even if the cram shells manage to get through the lambs, those shields are actually pretty good at stopping them. And yeah, this particular matchup, the bulwark has absolutely no chance. Look at that. That is... that is a lot of cram that is getting completely destroyed here. And the bulwark's having a bad day for sure. So, we've successfully established that the Terr is a bit of a tough one. She's not easy to kill at all. It takes an awful lot. And let's do this. Just so if the shields come on, they don't lag my game. So, what's the other bit of it? What's this thing armed with? Well, it's armed with quite a lot, actually. This is a multi-purpose, multi-armed vessel. It's one of the reasons why this thing's such a pain in the arse. It counters an awful lot of what you can throw at it. But to start off with is these 9 main guns and 3 turrets right here. Let's just do that quickly. So, what are these guns? These are... for the most part, this one is... the 2 on either side of each turret is hollow point high explosive, which is tremendously powerful. It is one of the more meta shells in the game, because if this thing hits... a hull, it tends to tear it apart, because it does 21,000 kinetic damage, which is basically... and what hollow points do, they... essentially converts kinetic damage into thump damage, similar to hash. So it basically rips off like a whole sheet of metal, or just hull casing all at once, which tends to open a hole for the high explosive to penetrate deeper. Also, these are railguns, and not exactly sure how much rail draw they have. These settings right here, I don't play around with railguns, so... rail draw is about 17,000. Railgun speed increased by 184. So if we go to there, go to here, 177. These shells, if assuming I've done this right, by the way, I might have misread, but these things do absolutely stupid amounts of kinetic damage, and they're very fast. 571 meters per second is pretty damn fast for a shell this big. So, that's the main ingredient of this ship, is that if it gets through your shields, it is going to rip your craft to pieces, and the bad news is, it is probably going to get through the shields, because this middle gun right here is a disruptor warhead, and it's a monster of a disruptor warhead too. 588 EMP strength isn't much usually, but on a disruptor warhead, that is easily enough to take out a shield at one shot, and this thing fires reasonably quick. It kind of, like, not incredibly fast, but let's see, it fires 20 shots per minute, so what is that? So every 3 seconds this thing fires, which is, it'll tear your shields off in no time at all. So the stabilizer fin also counteracts the inaccuracy of the disruptor conduit head, so it's quite accurate, and it's just as much rail as the other gun, so 475 meters per second, assuming it's still got the same kind of rail draw. Let's just check. No, this uses more. It uses about 45,000, so let's see. So if we go here and 40, no, 5,000. Huh. Either I'm doing this funny or that this is even faster. 666 meters per second, and kinetic damage, like, admittedly this isn't a hollow point or an AP capped head or anything, but there's a lot of kinetic damage. That'll take out a metal beam or so. So even after the shields are down, this middle gun down the middle, is gonna still do some damage, and will probably take off heavy armor blocks as well. So that's the 3 main turrets, and for the record, another reason this thing is such a pain in the butt to kill is that these turrets are fully armored. They're fully enclosed, and in particular they use a fair amount of heavy armor. So here, heavy armor, it's got metal on the sides, and they're front armored as well. A lot of the... so here, metal, heavy armor, more metal and heavy armor. So when these turrets are facing the enemy, they tend to be extremely difficult to kill, even if you're using things like Hesh or Heat or kinetic penetrators or something like that. Because the hull is reasonably well armored, the turrets are really well armored. You basically, the easiest way to dispose of these is to blow them up from underneath. We'll get to that in a little bit. So, what else has this thing got? It has 3 of these little kinetic sabot turrets, 2 in the front, 1 in the back, which are general anti-aircraft purposes, but they also have a habit of utterly shredding a lot of anything that has the shields dropped. And remember those big disruptor guns. The shields will drop eventually, unless you repair them, but I hope you have the pocket money for that, mate. And these are, well, how big is this gun? Let's do this, let's do this. So, this gun right here, let's turn on the UI for a start. This is a 121mm gun. Go here, doop. So, over 5,000 kinetic damage, and let's get rid of that. Okay, so, that's more reasonable. 1,800 kinetic damage, armor piercing of almost 30, which is pretty good for a 121mm shell, and this thing fires very quickly. 447 shots a minute. It's not a completely outrageous rate of fire, but it's easily fast enough to tear through anything that's not shielded. So, it's got 3 of these little annoying little secondary guns. It also has missiles. It has quite a few, actually. It has 34 separate little missiles in one volley, and pretty much all of them look like this. Fins, fuel tank, and these, I believe, are mostly AA, because they go 3,000... They have 3,000 thrust per second. They're very fast. And they don't really have target protection or anything like that, because, well, honestly, they don't really need them. They're fast enough to catch up with most things. And I believe these are pretty much exactly the same. Yes, they are. These are just spares over here. And so this thing is well armed, but that's not all, because it also, in case you were thinking submarines are the really easy way to kill it, it has a scary torpedo volley. 16 of these monster explosive torpedoes, almost overkill really, which are pretty fast, and they're on turrets, so they save an extra space in the missile. They don't need 1-turns, and they tend to be quite safe and snug here beneath the hull. So even if you manage to shred the upper decks, the torpedoes can still kill you if you don't take care of it quickly. So yeah, where are we? So, well armored, well defended. And, oh, about the defense, I forgot to mention. Acoustic torpedoes tend to suffer a lot against this craft, because not only does it have that LAM system up there which pops torpedoes, it also has these little things, 4 of them. These are standard torpedo decoys, sonar decoys. It has 4 of them, and it drops them reasonably frequently. So there's 2 over there, and there's 2 back here, and these hover quite deep below it. So these things float 81 meters beneath it, so anything coming from a submarine or coming from below it tends to get pulled by that. But there's a way around that, and we'll talk about that later. So, It also, you probably noticed down there, it has, this thing runs on PIDs. In fact, it sits spookily still in the water because of that. It doesn't rock around and float. And it has all the PIDs. You name it, it has it. Oh yeah, a lot of the shields tend to sit on wooden blocks, by the way. So this one in particular is on a wooden beam. So good luck trying to fry it with EMP. That is another destructor warhead. More on that later. And where is the PID? It's here. So it has every kind of PID under the sun. It has a naval yaw, it has altitude, it has pitch, and it has roll. So this thing is very stable in the water, and it's very hard to sink. You basically have to kill its engines in order to do that, which is not tremendously easy, because I think it has a fair amount of redundant engine power. So if I do my magic trick again, it's got a big steam engine here in the back, producing power. It has scary lamp system in here, and it has humongous injector engines right here. It has, well, it looks like it has it has 6 of them. 6 monster ejector engines. So yeah, I'm wearing out my voice a little bit. If I sound a little bit quieter than usual, I've been talking a lot today, so... Right. So, it's got lots of shields, it's got lots of guns, it's got all that kind of stuff, aim point spoofing, lots of engine power, PIDs. So, it's hard to kill, and it will kill you straight back. So, you saw what a mess it was making of the bulwark. And, yeah, so... what are its weaknesses, if any? Well, the good news is, it does have weaknesses. It has a few. I will tell them to you right now. The first thing is that you might have guessed, well, might have noticed already, is that it's got armed with APS, it's armed with missiles. And that's it, really. It is all kinetic weaponry. It's got basically stuff that takes a little while, not a long time, but a little while to travel to the target, which means extremely fast craft can evade this thing's weaponry entirely. We're talking like over 120 meters per second, which is something like my old nemesis, the Hypatos. So you see, the Terr is not going to be able to shoot this down at all, even with these missiles. I should mention also the Terr has a lot of smoke. And because it doesn't have target protection, it tends to suffer in trying to catch things like this. In fact, the Hypatos is... whoa, okay. The Hypatos is actually winning right now. Let's turn off repairs just so you can see. Jeez. I think the Hypatos might have been upgraded with wavefront adjusters. I don't remember it doing it this much damage. Yep, so as you can see, this is going to take a long time. Or not really. In fact, the Hypatos might win this. It's not what happened the first time I tested it, but anyway. So, really fast craft, and apparently if the thing is armed with as stupidly overpowered lasers as the Hypatos, it can kind of literally run circles around the Terr. It's not designed for catching really fast targets. It doesn't have lasers, it doesn't have particle cannons or really specialized missiles or anything like that. So there's one way to evade its firepower. And speaking of speed, this craft isn't particularly fast. So if we go this way, which way is she going? She's gonna turn a big circle. And we get up to its maximum speed. How about you going straight line? So in a straight line, she goes just under 13 meters per second. Which isn't slow, but it's not fast either. So if we do this now, that's about as fast as she gets, about 13 meters per second. Which means that extremely fast hydrofoil craft, or even just regular surface displacement craft, can also outrun this thing. What that done. Okay, so Also, you got to think about, like, what defenses. Like, how do you survive what this thing's throwing at you? And the main thing is, if your craft is resistant to, well, immune, let's say, to advanced cannons, you are most of the way there with surviving what the Terr can throw at you, because its main armament is these 9 big guns and these 3 smaller guns right here. And that means submarines. Now, when using submarines against the Terr, you of course have to worry about the surprise it has in its belly, these torpedo racks. And this is specifically, I'd say, submarine defense, because it's like the main reason is here. If the Terr didn't have submarines, it would be an absolute... I was about to say absolute pushover. It wouldn't be, but for submarines it would be a very easy target. As it is, you need to torpedo-proof your submarines before you can actually take this thing on. So yeah, it is... Basically, if your craft is underwater, or even the other way, if it's in space, you're probably going to survive a Terr encounter a lot more easily. And this, the Terr, as of now, and to be fair, nothing in the game has defense against it, it has no defense against particle cannons. And so if I spawn in something here, turn off that, I'm going to spawn in something made by Drava on the workshop. And it is one of the most overpowered little things I've ever seen. It is the Ninja Particle Shotgun, and this uses a lure script to kind of orbit in the air, so it's not balanced at all. It is meta as hell. But it is a good way to show you what particle cannons can do to a Terr, because it does terrible, terrible things. Like that, for instance. So that was one shot of this damn thing, and what did it do? I think it took out one of the... Yep, it took out a gun, went very deep in here, it took out things almost on the other side of the ship. And it is probably going to do it again soon. You can see the way it orbits like that is impossible to hit, and yeah. So, strong particle cannons will wreck a Terr completely. They'll even pop the guns off before it even knows what happens. Just block confetti like crazy, so Pack is good against the Terr. It currently has no defense against it and probably won't until the long-awaited shield update actually happens. And if you don't want to use particle cannons, which is understandable because I personally hate them, they're really tedious to build, there is another thing. The Terr relies heavily on shields in order to keep it alive and keep it safe from advanced cannon fire. So disruptor warheads are, I wouldn't say essential, but highly recommended when taking this thing on, because if you pop the shields off, it's like any other ship. Its hull is as vulnerable as anything else. So it's even got in here, this part in particular, in the bow, one layer of deck armor, just one layer of metal. So you can tear it apart reasonably quickly once you get through the shields, and so using disruptor warheads is quite recommended. In fact, I will demonstrate that right now. So if I go here, ship, Terr. Let's see. I believe this is the same. Where is it? Here it is. We'll go over here, and I'll show you the disruptor guns that I've yet to put on any kind of ship. What was I doing? I was doing this. This one. So this is the same little disruptor demo thing that I used in my video on the Bulwark. And same story really, smoke guns in front, disruptor cannons in the back, turn them on. once you're through the shields, this thing is a lot easier to kill. Of course, it helps if you have other things in order to... Something that packs more of a wallop than these guns. In fact, hold on a moment. Let's fix this quickly. Shouldn't have done this on camera, that's for sure. Random block, change every 1 second. Essential thing for smoke. Okay, now dude. So it's actually getting through the shields, which is very handy. In fact, it is incredibly handy. Now, as you probably would have seen in my last video, the review of the Freiburg, that's the strategy it uses. It is basically shielded enough and repair bot happy enough to survive what the Terr throws. Also got a big LAM system, counter torpedoes, all that stuff. But it uses disruptor plus HESH shells, which is, and hollow point high explosive, which works extremely well for this. So let's pull you back in. Let's go sit on you, because that is fun. Oh, jeez. Okay, so disruptor APS. Okay, so the other thing to note is that this LAM system on the Terr, and thank God for people telling me about LAM systems, is that I've been told by reliable sources that there's, broadly speaking, two kinds of laser anti-missile defense, or laser anti-munition defense rather, and that is the kind to deal with missile swarms, which uses a continuous laser, and a more laser pump heavy version that's designed to deal with incoming, essentially artillery fire, crams, and slow APS shells and that. This is the latter category. It's good for dealing with cram volleys. It is less good for dealing with ridiculous missile swarms. And what is something that fires a ridiculous amount of missiles? Is this going to spawn inside the damn thing? Well, this was probably a bad idea. Yes, it was. Why do I do anything? Why do I do anything, actually? That's a good question. So, if I spawn in a Spectre, I believe it was. Go way over here. The Spectre will lose, by the way. This is just to illustrate that if you throw enough missiles at the Terr, it doesn't have countermeasures aside from the LAMs, so it will. Some of the missiles will still kind of sneak through. Yeah, my team might not. Still Striders, the Terr. Version 663. Look you. Some poor bastard has spent a lot of time on this, so. So I believe that is, in fact... What the hell is going on now? That is probably too many missiles for the Terr to handle all at once, though it is going to pop a lot of them. So you see, some of them are sneaking through, and if that missile volley was better aimed, it would have gone a lot better. So, thing to keep in mind is that the Terr's LAMs is mostly an anti-munition one rather than an anti-missile one. So if you just are feeling lazy, you can just spam missiles and torpedoes at it until it dies. But there is a trick to it. Oh yeah, there's another thing with the Terr, and which will probably show up later when I'm actually demonstrating, well, my own craft against it, and that is the front gun. Tends to shoot itself. In fact, that's exactly what happened earlier, when I just kind of spawned the Vanguard right in front of it. Is that this wee cannon right in the front here. This one right here. Oh, I believe that these do not, in fact, have... Yeah, they don't have an elevation restriction, which means that if anything is on a direct line between these guns and through the bow, the ship will shoot itself. Like, I'm pretty sure it probably has fail-safes as well, but apparently not enough. It tends to blow its own nose off if something is like right down here, for instance, which is where submarines are in fact the best counter to this. So yeah, it does tend to shoot itself. And as ever, if the lambs are giving you a hard time, as well I showed just now with the disruptor warheads, use smoke. And in fact, use smoke with the targeting set to target random blocks, and the faster your smoke guns fire, the better. So just more likely to smoke the superstructure where the most of the lambs nodes are. So yes, that is essentially how to kill a Terr. And I'm not going to show the Freiburg taken on again because she had enough of that in her review video. I will instead show you how my submarines handle it, and hopefully they don't embarrass me in the process. So we have the Terr right here. Incidentally, for those of you following my campaign, I have upgraded my submarines yet again. The Kula is once again a laser toting, a laser torpedo toting submarine as opposed to just acoustic. And I've upgraded the Crocodile's counter torpedoes because she kind of needed it. They weren't working as well as I wanted. Not the ship. She's also a little bit more expensive now. And just for fun, we're going to put her in Grey Talon colors because, I know, I like the Grey Talon color scheme. Also, it's funny that to have Grey Talon anything being under the water. It makes me giggle. There. This does take a wee while, but honestly, this Most Wanted is taking less time than I thought it would, so we're just gonna have some fun. We're going to torpedo a Terr to death. So the thing to note about the Crocodile, for those of you who haven't seen, is that it has underwater smoke guns, it has a lot of torpedoes and a lot of counter torpedoes, and the Kula, as you can see over here, little lasers are showing. Why are you going up? How are we doing? Doing absolutely grand. And as you can see, the smoke is actually quite handy because it is blowing up all kinds of stuff. And I believe something impressive just happened. Yep. So that right there is the best way to get rid of the main guns on the Terr, because underneath there's not a lot keeping them on. They are very deep set hulls, and if you destroy the block the turret's standing on, they die. And it's simple as that. And also, I mentioned before, dealing with these little sonar decoys, these counter torpedoes, as I like to call them, will lock onto and destroy sonar decoys if they spot them. So you see this one bobbing right here, it will blow them up. So it's a useful thing for a submarine to have. And the Crocodile just got hit, but that's okay, she can repair herself. Yeah, I really wish you'd deal with that faster, though. That'd be nice. So yeah, it's very hard to fight a Terr and end up unscathed. It is possible, though. What the hell's the Kula doing? Something, I believe. The Crocodile can almost take on a Terr by herself, I say almost, not quite. These friggin' counter-torpedoes are... Oh no, she's gonna die. No, she's not. Okay, good. I also stuck sonar decoys on the croc as well. So long as the Terr dies before she does, I'm happy. What is the thing doing? Okay, this... I knew that embarrassed me somehow. The cooler is aiming like a twat. What are you doing, man? What are you... Did you run into the... What are you doing? Where are you? I friggin' hate you. I really do. I hate you a lot. Okay, Right, this is, do-over. In fact, future me edit that out, because that was very embarrassing. Because, you know what? Screw you, that's why. Screw you, Terr, for facing... See, this is what I hate about the Terr. It finds some way to screw you. It finds some way to do it. Where's the goddamn Terr? There it is. Now, we'll do that again. Only this time, the... I can't save face right now, can I? Right, you know what? Screw it. You saw what was happening. You don't need to see the Terr die. The damn thing was taking damage. Trust me when I say that if from the depths, if the AI was less stupid and if terrain avoidance was less hard to make, the cooler would have torpedoed it up the bum and it would have been absolutely rosy. So, bottom line with the Terr, get rid of its shields, torpedo it from beneath, and you should be mostly fine. Don't, it is a risk to try and take it mano a mano with another surface vessel. You basically need to pull every trick it's pulling with disruptor warheads, really good shielding, and a repair boat or two couldn't hurt you either. Otherwise known as the Friggy strategy, after the frigate. Or any other ship that does that, I guess. So, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And I'll see you next time in From the Depths. Most Wanted! And remember, for every like on the video, a Terr will die. So, like the video a lot. Send it to all your friends. Because this thing needs to die. A lot. In fact, just for giggles, if it dies, it looks like this. Right. Beautiful. Farewell.